My name is Orin, and I'm going to be talking about how censorship of violent images is hurting the credibility of U.S. media. Before there were newspapers and television, the only media that people had to go through was novels written by historians, one of the most famous of which was written by Homer. It chronicled the Odyssey, or the Battle of Troy, which was between Hector and Achilles. A lot of famous characters came of that, but the thing to take away is that it romanticized death and stressed pageantry and invincibility in battle. By the time the Civil War began, battle viewing was seen as a leisure activity. For the first battle of the Civil War in 1861, families gathered together for picnics to watch the spectacle of battle. This was something that both men, women, and children were encouraged to attend. However, by the end of the war, most people had lost their taste for violence. The carnage of the battlefield was brought to their doorsteps with the images that photographers are starting to produce in newspapers and other sources of media. This caused backlash, and it ended up making the media censor a lot of the images that they produced. By the time World War I started, the media had taken to censoring images to make sure that violence and death was kept at a minimum, as to not anger or to turn off the public from reading their publications. However, censorship couldn't be silenced. The bodily injuries and mental health disorders that veterans were coming back with were too much to hide. People began to question why their stories were being censored and why the media was changing the truth. The Vietnam War saw a lot of powerful images come out that caused people to question violence and to question why the United States was involved in some of the wars that they were. This led to famous followings such as the hippie movement and the peace movement. However, people questioning the government's role in censoring was questioned because bystanders were beginning to have cameras just the same as the media. Now, their journalistic duties were to publish these images as individuals. As the person who filmed the Rodney King beating professed to, that he felt that he had a duty to show this to everyone. Unfortunately, this resulted in the Los Angeles riots in 1991 that led to several days of violence, and this was something that people began to question whether or not it could have been prevented had someone controlled what was shown in the video that caused all this to begin with. During the Gulf War, however, it became apparent that the censoring and the filtering had become too much. War was portrayed as little more than a video game. There was no bodies, there was no violence or anything to see other than what was shown on the nightly news, which was cool video game-like videos. However, in September 11th, the images, there was no other way to show planes crashing into building without actually showing them. This caused people who had previously not wanted to engage in any other wars to question it and give permission for the government to engage in wars. However, the war is up to 16 years now with no end in sight. People have become so disillusioned and question the credibility of the media now so much that they have allowed predators to take leadership roles over them. The media is somewhat of a joke now to individuals around the world. Our president makes fun of them, people question it, and there's no way of knowing who to trust and why to trust them. This is something that the media may not have intended to do. However, their censorship over the last 200 years has caused their credibility to come into question.